Hello folks, and I hope you're having a fantastic week so far. Today's topic, I'm going to be talking about how to overcome the self-imposter syndrome. So your self-imposter syndrome, especially if this is an area that you have been struggling with and challenged by. So you can be any stage of your lifestyle business venture. You might be like a startup business, an existing entrepreneur, or considering starting the business venture. So self-imposter syndrome is basically things that limit you in terms of what you visualize and you want to be able to overcome, but then there's certain thoughts that may be occurring in your mind that are preventing you from moving to the next best step that you visualize through your life vision. So now I believe a life vision does not lie. It is there for a reason and also as a guide, only that there's a significant number of us who suffer from this experience of the imposter syndrome to the point that it may prevent you from like moving forward and believing that you have potentially failed, when in reality you actually haven't failed, but it's all about the lessons learned process. Okay, so that's what I'll be covering. And you might be wondering, how does this link to lifestyle business or even a startup business? I tend to talk about lifestyle business planning as well as digital marketing and internet marketing, anything to do with like social media marketing. But I believe that aside from the technical aspects, mindset is very essential. And also I'm keeping in mind that yesterday was Mental Health Awareness Day, that it's something that a lot of us will experience in one stage or another in our life, whether it be in the mild form or in a very challenging way as well. And I believe in being proactive in terms of what you do for yourself, especially if you're wanting to change. So before I go on and get carried away, let me introduce myself. My name is Chiko Matenda and I'm a lifestyle business mentor as well as a digital marketing strategist. And I mainly talk about, as I've mentioned before, lifestyle business matters, digital marketing, internet marketing, and anything to do with social media marketing, and also how you show up in terms of your brand personality and how to improve that on social media. So the reason why I'm mentioning this as well is that you might be in a position where you're looking to move beyond just writing content and you want to show up more on this platform like YouTube and be elsewhere on social media or LinkedIn, but you feel limited because of the imposter syndrome. Okay, so it all ties in. It's all about how you show up in this world and how you're challenging yourself. So I'll just list off a few things so that I keep on track here. The things that came to mind for me when I thought about self-imposter syndrome, and this is some things that I've experienced as well, is self-confidence, for instance. Lack of self-confidence, self-doubt as an example, overthinking things to the point that you're unable to move forward. You may be overthinking because you're thinking, what will family think, what will friends think, or what will people who I don't even know think once I put my information out there? Will they judge my content, whether it be on my blog or a written piece on social media? What if I don't get any likes? So all that thinking then causes you to look at the fear itself of actually, you're thinking about what could happen, but you actually don't know what's going to happen. Okay, so that stops you from actually moving forward. Or you might be worried about fear of failure or overwhelm of success. Okay, so there's a possibility as well. I've experienced it in the past where I was overwhelmed by the potential to become successful. So I didn't do anything, I stopped. And the other ways I'll just share with you before I go into the tips on how you can overcome an imposter syndrome is, I built this narrative within myself where I believed that I was a shy person, because I had heard so many things being said that I was quiet, I was shy. So I developed this narrative that made it okay for me to be shy, and I bought into it because of people in my environment who were saying this until like I was really much older. And I also believed that I was an introvert. So I put these labels on myself based at times on what was going on in the external world and what I heard. Okay, so that doesn't mean that I couldn't have changed. So I'm also giving this example is that you might be in the similar position where you're hearing these narratives externally, but you then buy into it and make it to become something that is true, when in reality it's actually not true. What I mean by this is that just because something has happened in your life doesn't mean that it needs to remain that way, especially if you're open to changing. So if you're open to changing, it's about raising your awareness and looking at how you can overcome that. So the more I learned about, I got comfortable in the fact that people said I was an introvert or shy. That meant that I could take a step back. I didn't need to challenge myself in the things that I visualized. This carried on into like school, university. Although as much as I tried to reinvent myself, there was still a part of me that got comfortable in that narrative. And when I went into my workplace as well, there were times when I just took a step back, although I knew that there were times when I wanted to say things, but because the narrative I had bought into, it was easy for me to revert back. It's only when I decided that I actually don't need to own these labels, I can let go of them. It's not going to be easy, it's going to be challenging. Then I learned how to embrace that. Okay, so I'll give you examples such as I wanted to learn how to do this, what I'm doing right now, video recording, because I knew that I wanted to connect with people on a global scale and to be able to do that from the comfort of my own home or when I was traveling. So what did I need to do? I needed to throw myself in the deep end. So that might be nerve-wracking for a lot of people, and it definitely was nerve-wracking for me. I went on Periscope, which is even more challenging, Periscope app on Twitter, and that people kept coming and going, and I thought, oh my goodness, this is the worst experience ever. But you know what? Once I actually did, I went into the experience and then I came through it. Even though I was very nervous, and then afterwards I was critiquing myself for all the worst things that I could think about, there was something about I opened the door, an opportunity to move forward. Okay, so although it was something like it felt like I was jumping over the cliff literally, it's something that once you attempt it, not the going over the cliff literally, no, it may feel like that, but once you embrace certain things that challenge you, the better it is. So this is going to tie in nicely because I'm going to go into like the tips as well that could potentially help you into learning how to overcome the self-imposter syndrome so that you can continue to show up as you want to, so that you can start to show up as you would like in the best version of you, the person that you visualize. So the first one that I wrote in terms of how to overcome, if you've got a notepad, you can pause the video. There's 7 steps. 7 steps. I've got my little gadget here that I'm trying to also refer to and not throw on the floor at the same time. So my hand gestures are very limited. So the first one is, first of all, you have to want to change. Okay, there's no point in me talking about this, especially if you're only just watching it and consuming it, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the thing that causes us to change is our willingness to want to take the step. Okay, so that's why I mean that there's no point in me just saying this. You have to actually want to embrace and want to change. And this is the same stage that I reached in my life, is that I decided for myself that I wanted to change and I was going to take the first step. Okay, then number 2 is to look at whose narrative are you carrying with you, or have you been carrying with you all your life? Just like this story that I told you before about the narrative that I had carried with me. So you're carrying a suitcase with you that has got all these narratives. Some of them can be negative that you have been carrying. How did you end up possessing this? Where did you hear them? So write them down, as many as you believe about yourself, and start to challenge yourself on how valid and accurate is it, or is it something that you've carried as a comfort blanket to make you comfortable so that you don't have to challenge yourself. Okay, so again, it's about wanting to challenge yourself and being self-aware of the narrative that you have been taking on board. Also, write down negative words you say throughout the day. The more you become aware of the words you use about yourself, the better. And then start to think of words that you can actually replace that are positive. Okay, so that your brain starts to get used to a different type of meaning that will positively encourage you to move forward. Ask yourself these questions as well. This is under number 2. Who says you're not good enough? Who says you're an introvert? If those are the words that you say. And do you have to be? If you don't want to be, can you carry a different label? And when you visualize yourself, what is the best version of you that you see? And that picture, draw it out, outline it, wherever way you can be creative of what you picture yourself to be like, because that is you walking into, that will help you to walk into who you want to become. So number 3 is be mindful and self-aware of the daily excuses that you make. So we have to be really honest here. We all make excuses, okay? The only difference is that there's some people who are very self-aware, will know what the excuse is, and then they'll challenge their mind to say, I'm going to overcome it and I'm going to do it. An example today, I could have said it's raining, and it is raining, drizzling outside right now. I could have stated that I don't feel like going to walk because it's drizzling outside. But in reality, I actually went out because I knew that that was an excuse. And I've spoken before about I have fibromyalgia. So at the moment, my cognitive function is a little bit challenged because the weather is not great. I'm staring right outside the window. So that impacts my cognitive function. Again, I could use that as, because I'm not feeling well, my cognitive function is not all well there, I'm not going to go outside, I'm just going to rest. And that does happen sometimes. But I knew within my makeup what my capability is, and I still encouraged myself to go out. Even though my mind was starting to say first thing, I don't feel like going out, my brain doesn't feel great, I still went with it, regardless of what my mind, what my thoughts were saying. I forced myself to go out. So walking into something makes you eventually embrace it and then let go of these negative thoughts that tend to come into our mind. The more you repetitively challenge those thoughts, the better it becomes. And this change doesn't happen overnight, because if you have learned certain habits for a lifetime, it will take you a long time to progress to changing your mindset. But what I would recommend is that you do something on a consistent basis over 21 days to 3 months to 6 months, and then review the changes that have happened as well. Number 4, do the opposite of what has kept you in the comfort zone. So that ties back to number 3. Challenge yourself to do things that you fear the most. The more you do that, the more you're likely to start overcoming some of the self-limiting beliefs. Ask yourself, what is the worst thing that could happen? Also, in an emergency situation, how likely are you to be responsive? They always say, there's a saying that most of us die with our dreams, and then most of us, if we had a gun, although I don't like that analogy, somebody confronted us with that, or something deadly was happening, we would be more awakened at our highest state to actually to do something to change our lives. Okay, so you don't have to wait for something critical or life challenging to happen before you can change. Just think of it as your life being an emergency, and then encourage yourself to daily to challenge yourself to do things that you wouldn't normally do but you think about often doing. Number 5, we can't travel this world alone. Seek mentorship, coaching, psychotherapy as a talking cure, a therapy, somebody who's sitting in front of you like a mirror to reflect on things that challenge you. Not somebody necessarily, with a psychotherapy is not somebody telling you how to live your life, but it's challenging you to awaken to things that you have limited yourself to be able to do, and then to move forward with minimal regrets. Okay, so this is an area that I studied, existential psychotherapy, but there's different types of therapy that you can also embrace aside from psychotherapy. Coaching and mentorship, it challenges you to move forward and to challenge you to embrace things that you're wanting to embrace in life. It's just a different approach where it's more structured and you have planning and a guide almost to help you to navigate and to overcome barriers to create goals as examples. Number 6, surround yourself with positively minded people. So these are not people who are not experiencing pain in life or anxiety or fear or self-limiting beliefs, but these are people who acknowledge and are aware that these are things that happen in life, and they're willing to embrace them, to raise their awareness, to go through self-development, and also to overcome those self-limiting beliefs. The more you surround yourself with like-minded people who are looking to move forward in life, or they're people who have overcome those challenges, the likelihood is that you are mentally going to also start evolving as a person. You may be in a position where you're stuck because your environment hasn't changed. Your friendships, your relations haven't evolved. So sometimes it helps to switch things up. Number 7. Okay, so that's the last one. Write down your goals. Okay, so I tend to forget this when I'm doing like my sessions. Is one of the things that motivated me to create my Start With Your Life Vision course was because during my 2-year consecutively after leaving my 9 to 5, I was mentoring and providing business coaches to entrepreneurs, startup business owners who were looking to launch their online businesses online. And one of the things that I came across was that they were starting and stopping things. The reason for this is that they were not writing down the goals, they were not planning, or they were not clear on their life vision. Okay, so if you're somebody who's looking for more assistance to have accountability on your action planning and to see them through, and to also be very clear on your life vision so that you can attract the opportunities, better opportunities, and also your ideal clients, this is who I specifically created that course for. And I also have a Facebook group for mentorship. Okay, so I wanted to just bring that in because I tend to forget that I have these resources with me that could potentially help the people who want to. If you are looking for this particular type of support for somebody and a group of people to encourage you, to positively encourage you to move forward, and you vice versa to reciprocate that, then this could be the opportunity for you. So I'm going to leave it there, and I hope this, I was going to say this episode, let's call it an episode. Okay, this video has helped you and that you've got some useful tips. Let me know what you're going to implement or if you have overcome some self-limiting beliefs, it could help somebody else. You never know. Or anything that comes to mind in relation to what I've talked about. And if there's any other topic that you would like to learn based on the topics that I've mentioned that I usually talk about, do leave a comment below, and remember to also hit the subscribe button above and to share out to friends who you believe